Okay, well, welcome everybody. Thank you all for taking time out of your day to join us for our live event. My name is Mark Hudson, CEO of Squirrel365, and today I'm joined by my colleague Mel Shepherd, our Chief Experience Officer. We're recording this live event and it will be made available to you all later today. So let's get started. More and more of us are moving our business systems to cloud apps and looking at ways to automate repetitive tasks and make better use of our resources. Before cloud, in order to integrate our business systems, we would typically have to engage developers to assist. This could end up being a lengthy and sometimes costly process. No-code platforms are looking to solve this problem by making it easier to build apps, automate workflows, and integrate business systems. And that's really where Squirrel365 comes in. Squirrel365 is a no-code platform for the spreadsheet community. It harnesses your spreadsheet skills to easily let you build apps for web and mobile, all done with clicks, not code. Zapier is at the heart of workflow automation. It seamlessly allows you to automate workflows and connect your cloud apps. Again, all done with clicks and not code. Today, we'll be showing you how with Squirrel365 and Zapier, combined, you can build apps, automate workflows, and integrate your cloud business systems without ever having to write a single line of code. Now, I'd love to show you, but thankfully, we've got an expert on hand who can. So, Mel, let's see how it's done. Over to you.
Excellent, thanks, Mark. Expert, no pressure then. Right, hi everyone. So yeah, just to further introduce myself, I'm Mel Shepherd, Chief Experience Officer here at Squirrel365. My background is one of IT, so I've had a number of technical roles, but in each of my roles, I've always enjoyed simplifying complex things, and that extends to processes and interfaces too. And this has led to me developing a real passion for sort of user experience and interface design, but ultimately also goes quite some way to explaining why I get so excited about the no-code space too. It's all about simplification and automation. So so I'm excited to share what I've got with you guys today. So let's get going. So what we're going to cover today, we're going to have a quick look at what Squirrel365 is, in case there's any of you out there that aren't aware of this rather awesome no-code tool. And we're also going to look at Zapier, where it fits in and how it helps. And then in terms of demos, we're going to look at no-code ways to do monitoring and alerting using Squirrel. I've got a neat little example of a value calculator sort of turned lead form, and writing back to Google Sheets as well from within your Squirrel application, or a widget created with Squirrel, with a very basic kind of session feedback app as well. And then if we've got any time, which hopefully we will, we should be able to get some questions in. So Squirrel365 then, what is it? The no-code platform for your spreadsheet is how I'm describing it here. So what is Squirrel365? It's a tool that allows you to build applications where the more traditional programming languages are replaced by spreadsheet formulas effectively. So you can create anything from interactive content for your website right through to powerful web applications, all without needing to write a line of JavaScript or having to learn any web development frameworks such as React or Angular. You simply create any logic that you need using spreadsheet formulas that you're already familiar with. So if you can use a spreadsheet, you can create an app in Squirrel. It's that simple, really. Just kind of, I've distilled it down into a few bullet points here to try and kind of get across how we use Squirrel and how it helps you. So Squirrel lets you import an existing spreadsheet or start from scratch. So you kind of you can take an Excel file that you've already got if you've done all the hard work already in terms of calculations and modeling things in Excel, and bring that straight into Squirrel and then put a front end or a UI on top of it. Essentially, you do that by adding components to a canvas and then connecting up those components. Each of them has a set of properties, and you can connect those up to the cells in the spreadsheet. And the real power of it comes by using the formula logic that you have in your spreadsheet. And essentially, that's how you're defining actions or interactions. So that's your kind of programming bit, I guess. And then you can publish whatever you produce to the cloud or deploy it as a local web app and share it with as many people as you like. So it sounds rather too good to be true, really, but we will see it in action. And then where does Zapier fit in? How does it help? So it's a workflow automation and integration tool. and we use it to connect up systems and automate tasks, essentially. There's over 3,000 apps, I think, now that are sort of natively integrated with Zapier, if that makes sense. So, and we'll see it in some more detail when we have a look in a moment. But you can pick apps that already have the connectors, those bits to do the integration for you within Zapier, and it's huge now, 3,000 plus of those. It's got pre-canned workflows, so there's a lot of templates up there available. For the most part, if you can think of something you want to do with Zapier, someone's likely to have already done it. And then as people create Zaps, they can share these workflows or templates. So pick one, and you can start with one that's already done, which cuts down on the kind of build or creation time massively. And it works by just thinking about triggers and actions. So coming back to me and my obsession with simplicity, it's nice and human, nice and easily understandable. So something that starts an automation is the trigger, and then what you want to happen as a result of that is the action or actions. So nice and easy to get your head around. And the team at Zapier have a tagline, something like Zapier makes you happier. It's quite a bold claim, and I think mostly intended to help you remember how it should be said or pronounced. I've had to retrain my brain, as I called it Zapier for the first, I don't know how many months of using it. But they're not wrong. It does make you a little bit happier, and certainly pairing it with Squirrel puts endless possibilities at my fingertips. So yeah, that does count to make me happier. Right, so first thing we're going to look at today then is a really simple example of kind of push alerting, I suppose. So you can very easily in Squirrel build in any kind of monitoring that you would like to do, use it for sort of emergency notifications, alerts or watches on values. So this first Squirrel Zapier combo, if you like, is going to basically take something we've created in Squirrel, push it through Zapier, and then we're actually going to put that into, we're going to notify ourselves inside MS Teams for this one. And the premise of it really is, there was a client I did some work for quite a while ago now. They're an aluminium smelter, and they have to monitor various environmental aspects, if you like, measures around that plant. And one of the things they had to be aware of was wind speed. They had people working outdoors at height, and they would have sensors that monitored the wind speed. And if it exceeded a certain, I think it was meters per second, they measured it in, but if it got to above a certain speed or strength of wind, they would push these kind of alerts out to stop the workers from working. They would have to come down off of the platforms. This was all done through sensors monitoring that. But from time to time, the system would go down and they would revert to kind of like a manual process. And I was thinking, well, okay, if we're looking to demonstrate alerting, this is something that you can create the app in sort of under 5 minutes and have this mechanism for somebody inputting it. Instead of going paper-based, as they would sort of fail over onto their paper-based mechanism, you could do this in an automated fashion still. So yeah, let's have a look at how we do that. Then I'm going to leap into Squirrel. Okay, so this is the Squirrel interface. For those of you not familiar with it, we've got this area in the middle, which is essentially our canvas. I mentioned that you basically can add components. So we've got a list of components down the side here. We can add, drag around, resize, standard kind of standard interface really for working with or building with these kind of tools. What I've done here is I've opened a file that has just a few components on it already. So we've got a text label for a sort of title, a value input. This is how the number, the wind speed value is going to get entered. And then we've just got a label explaining that should be in miles per hour. And then we've got a button. This is how we're going to submit that value. So, and just in terms of speed, it takes no more than probably 5 minutes to build this. But we've only got half an hour today, and there's a lot I want to show you. So I'm just open this one up and you can see what I've done. Right, so armed with this, I'll just take you through. So the important thing to note is we connect components to our spreadsheet via our property panel. So this value input that I've got here, we can see that we've actually connected it or bound it to this cell here, G3. So that means, and we can see this in very real terms, if I were to change this value, for example, to 25, we'll see it update in here. And the same can be said for if I go into this debug mode, which is kind of like a mode where the project is running, but lets you look at the spreadsheet also. If I interact with this, we can see very clearly that connection between component and spreadsheet. We can see that happening real time. So that's good. But how do we get this input into Zapier so that ultimately it can then be distributed to whichever platform we want it to go to, in our case, Microsoft Teams. So what we need to do is add ourselves a function. So actually, what I didn't explain is you're kind of getting a sneak peek at this stage. This is something that has been in the sort of labs or R&D department for Squirrel, and we've added the ability to have add-on components and add-on functions, which mean we'll be able to roll out sort of beta components and functions. And ultimately, it's moving towards an idea where we have an ecosystem where we can have community developed functions as well, but that's a little way off. But for now, we've got this mechanism in place, which means we'll be able to kind of quickly get new components out to be tested. So I'm using that one now. I'm using an add-on function, and I'm going to add that to my project, and it comes in and it adds to the list of functions. And the thing that I want to use is our Zapier trigger. And again, the Zapier trigger, we're working hard to get this as an actual native Zapier app, which you'll see when we go into the Zapier piece as well in a second. So ultimately, you'll just be adding a Zapier function going forward. But this is our intermediary step, I guess. So when we've got the Zapier trigger on here, there's a couple of bits of information it's asking for. It needs to know the webhook to go that it should be sending the request to, what data, which is basically the information that I want to send, so the message or the information that's going to Zapier, and then I can also get back a response. So let's jump into Zapier and I'll show you what these all mean. Okay, so here I am over in Zapier now, and I'm going to create myself a new Zap. So as I say, eventually Squirrel in the not too distant future will appear as an app that you can search for. In the interim, the way we talk to Zapier is via webhooks. So I want to create myself a new webhook. I choose here that I want a catch hook, and we continue. And this is the important bit. So webhook URL, we saw that inside Squirrel. It was required by the function just now. So I've copied that to my clipboard. And if I say continue, we can just accept all those defaults. What it wants me to do is basically send it a message. So it needs to know the sort of information that's coming in for this trigger, so that I can then define the actions, what needs to happen with that information. So I jump back into Squirrel. And over here, we're going to paste that webhook URL in here. And then I'm going to configure this field same way as we would bind the value input or any of our other properties for components. We want to say, yep, we want to get it from that cell there. And then in terms of the message, the information, the data to be sent out, we want to grab this block of information. Now this one's important, trigger. That is basically something that we've got inside our Zapier function that says if you put a 1 in there, then fire it, trigger it, essentially. If you put anything else in there, it will be ignored. So we need to send that up as part of that message. And I will show you how we use that in a second. And then what we will want to do is reset that after we've done it. So with our button, what we're saying at the moment is insert the button value in there. That's what's going to tell it to submit or to, in fact, we can make this a bit more obvious what's happening by updating that. So when I hit submit, what's actually going to happen is I'm connected up to this cell as being the thing to do effectively, which is take this, the contents of this cell, and I'm going to insert it into here, into the trigger cell. So we're going to push a 1 in there at the moment, and that is going to fire that information down to Zapier. So we're all wired up. I'll just set my reset so that we don't continuously keep firing. We want to make sure that we reset that value, and that's what that response is in that list of data coming in at the moment. That's just literally going to put a 0 back in there and reset it so that it's not firing repeatedly. So we know Zapier is waiting for us to test this. So if I go into debug mode for now, because everything is live and active in that mode, and hit submit, we can see we got the response back. It went to 1 very quickly and then back to 0. And then we'll come out to design mode and I shall leap back across. Now if I say test now, hopefully it will find, there we go. So it received that message, which was the text urgent, and stop work wind speed has exceeded 25 mile an hour, which matches exactly with the information this is pulling through from here that we sent. So that's all good. So now we can continue. And we know we want to send this to Microsoft Teams as our notification. So we come in here and we want to create a channel. We want to send a message. Continue. Connect it up to the account that we're using. And I am going to write this into our Squirrel Demos team. And it will go into the general channel. So that's the only one we have in there. Whoops. And we can choose plain, XML, Markdown. We can choose the message format. But for now, I'm just going to leave it as plain. And you can see we get access to those bits of data that we sent up now. So we're just going to put, hey guys, this is urgent, stop work. Hit continue on that. And I can send a test now. It says it was successful, is all done. Ask me if I want to turn it on. Let me just see if I haven't given our Zap a name. Test. Wind. Speed. What happening? Do we want to turn it on? Yes, let's turn that one on. Okay. Excellent. Now, if I go into Teams, what we should see, if I bring this one on, is that we received that message 14:17, so 17 minutes past 2 for us in the UK. Yep, so that's right. That's the one that we just sent over. And then what we can do now, we just go back into Squirrel. So one of the things I did say is that we would we use formulas for the logic and the actions taken here, so we can get a lot more sophisticated about this. In fact, we only really care if this wind speed has exceeded maybe 30 mile an hour, if we assume that was the sort of threshold or limit. So to do something like that is as simple as using your formulas. So if G3, you can see basically we're going to say if that is greater than 30, then we know we've exceeded it, send the message. So we know 1 is our trigger for the message, else 9 but 0, don't send it. We can do anything there, and then we can just again test that that logic is working. Once we go over 30, that goes to a 1. So we preview this now, and I did not position that very well. Let's say I enter 47, hit submit. If this is all working as it should, there we go, our latest message. So you can see how quickly and easily we can turn our Squirrel app into something that integrates so nicely with other systems. And there's not been a single line of code there. I've used a formula, and that's it. Everything else is clicks. So that is really, really powerful for everyone. And then just to kind of expand on that, we could get just a tiny bit more sophisticated and show, you can kind of get the idea of some thresholds potentially for alerting and doing different things based on different results. So let's say maybe we want to send out a warning if the wind speed is between 20 and 30, and only actually send the stop work message if it exceeds 30. So we can do that. And again, that's just simple. It's all formula functions and formula logic. So here we've just got logic in to say, if it's greater than this but less than that, send that message, and if it's above that, send the other message, else send this one. And that's all we're doing, just simple if logic. And then we can try this one out to, and let's say, what did we say, between 20 and 30 was going to send a warning. So let's have this one as 28 and submit that. And if we come over to Teams, we see we get our warning message. Warning, wind speed is increasing. I can't spell. Recorded as 28 miles per hour. So again, not a single line of code, no complicated integration. It's just adding the function, connecting it up to Zapier, and then having Zapier do the work for you, and just using the spreadsheet knowledge that you have. Really neat. Okay, great. So next example, we can get more sophisticated still and create something that's actually starting to look a bit like an app now. So why not use Squirrel to build value calculators, pricing tools, quote generators? I'm talking about the sort of thing you're doing in spreadsheets already, where you kind of change the values in a few cells and let the spreadsheet do all the work based on the formulas that you've got in there to calculate the results. Squirrel makes it really easy to put nice looking UI on top of those sorts of models, making them more engaging and easier to share. And then if you add Zapier into the mix, it becomes really easy to automate getting the output from a calculator straight into something like your CRM. So potentially generating leads based on giving someone access to a calculator like this. So this example is going to demonstrate Squirrel to Zapier to a CRM. So let's have a look at this one. Great. This one, again, I've got a starting point. Is our quote value. So as I said, looks a lot more like, a lot more app-like, more like some sort of rich interactive web content. And what we've got here is the same stuff that we're familiar with now. So we need to provide the URL. We need to trigger it when it happens, and then we're just sending some additional information in this time. So this time we're passing up an email address, a first name, and then we're going to take what the person interacting with this has input into this calculator, and we can pass that up as a message, and we're going to attach that as a note to the lead or the contact record that gets created. So nothing really any trickier than that. Any other things to note is, again, looking at how easy it is to create this stuff in Squirrel. We've just got input fields for the sort of lead capture form that we've got over here, and they just are writing into an area in the spreadsheet, as you'd expect. So each of those will populate these here, and then those are referenced in the message that was sent out. But we do have, again, showing the power of just that formula logic, is we've got this kind of like a little capture in there so that we're not getting bots completing this form for us, assuming it was up on a website somewhere. We just want to make sure we've got humans. So they need to be able to answer 2 plus 6. And until they do that, this button here doesn't become enabled. So we have this concept of disable this when. So at the moment, if this cell evaluates to no, then that button is going to be disabled. And only when it says yes will the button become enabled for them to actually submit the form. And again, it's just all formulas. So all we're saying is if they've entered in D15, which is here, it's going to be the result of this one here, equals 8, then it's a yes, else it's a no. So unless they provide 8 as the answer, then that button doesn't become enabled. And then on the Zapier integration side, it's just all the same as we've seen before. Specify a webhook URL, bind it to the range of data, and then we're going to clean up the trigger by putting the response in to overwrite the trigger after we're done. So if we have a quick look at how that looks on the Zapier side of things. So that's this one. So message coming in, exactly the same. Still a webhook because of the trigger, still a catch hook. And then after that, we've got two actions happening now. So we're going to create or update a contact in our HubSpot account. So I've set up a demo HubSpot account so we can see this happening. And we are then going to create an engagement, which is basically the process of adding the note, an engagement of type note. So we will grab from the message that comes in things like the email address, which are required for the creation or updating of that account. And then once that's been completed, we'll go on to add a note to that account, and that note is going to contain that information that they filled in or that they were kind of playing with in terms of the values in that value calculator. Useful stuff for our sales guys. So here we are. This is what we have. Just refresh that to make sure I've got the latest. So this is currently our sad little CRM with just the 3 contacts in it at the moment. And if we go now, head back over to Squirrel, go into preview mode. So we're running this like it's the app. What we can do is maybe do a bit of interaction. Maybe we don't have megabytes, we've got gigabytes. We certainly haven't got that much. So the sort of concept behind this is we've got our fictitious online backup solutions provider, Data Secure, and they would put this on their website, and people could choose how much data they needed to back up on maybe a nightly basis, what the transfer rate would be, so the speed of their broadband or internet connection, and then it would give them an idea of, okay, well, if you're going to be backing that amount of data up nightly, it's going to take, nearly 2 hours in this case to complete. And then so they can reach out to Data Secure and have someone contact them. We can just enter, let's be Mel. Let's be at Acme Stuff. Stuff.com, put in an email address, and remember I said unless we get the right answer in here. So if I can't add up, it won't work. But as soon as we get that in, I can hit request quote, and that should now go off. And obviously we could take this a step further, and the request that you get the submission. Thank you for submitting. Someone will be in touch. But for the purposes of this and showing the Zapier integration, we will leap back over to Zapier and see what we've got coming in. So is that, we should see that arriving. Yeah, it found the request. And this is me just checking the stages because these ones take a little bit longer to go through to HubSpot because there's 2 steps to be done. They look good. So if we come back here, yep. There we go. And if we dive into that contact and have a look, we've got the note added. We can either see that on notes. So a really slick way to be able to capture stuff on the front end in your Squirrel application and then fire it through into your the CRM or backend system of your choice, wherever you want this stuff to go. And that's the important thing to understand. Once you get it to Zapier, once you've got this first bit of the trigger and the information coming in, you've got access to those 3,000 plus apps. So Squirrel is fun. The ability to be able to capture this information in Squirrel or trigger this stuff from Squirrel, get it into Zapier really is it's a game changer really for us. So last bit. Another simple example is perhaps you want to capture some feedback. So this could be feedback forms, it could be customer satisfaction ratings, net promoter scores. If we want a quick and easy way to measure performance without investing in yet more tools or needing to get web developers to build something for us, then we can use Squirrel to do this. It's as I said, it's super easy to do. Let's say we work in the marketing department and want to capture this info straight into a Google Sheet, for example. So we're going to send something out or ask people or drive people to a web page where they can submit some kind of score, and we want to capture that in a Google Sheet. We can do this so quickly and simply in Squirrel, and then use the Zapier integration to write that back to a Google Sheet. So we're now talking about write back to Google Sheets, which is pretty cool also. So let's have a quick look at how we do that. Right, here we go. So really simple. All we've got here is a collection of stars. Grey stars are the unselected ones, yellow stars are the selected ones. So if we hide the grouping of yellow stars, just made up of those 5 stars, if we hide those, we see the grey ones below it. They're just layered on top of each other. And then what's really neat in Squirrel is we've got this thing called hotspot. So if you had a hotspot, you can mark kind of any area in your project or on your canvas and determine that something should happen as a result of perhaps like someone hovering on it or clicking on it. So we've got hover, which is mouse over or mouse out, and click events on there as well. So for this example, we have this hover put to great effect. Here we can do that, and then we're going to, on submission of that, we're going to send that information to Zapier, and Zapier is going to insert that into a Google Sheet. So again, exactly the same as we've seen before. If we look at the spreadsheet, there's nothing complex going on here. We've got a number for each star and the text that you saw changing there for each star. And then if I put it into debug mode, you'll see as we roll over those, you can see down here that we're just inserting based on that hover. It's just that connection again of the property to the spreadsheet to say when this happens, insert this down here. So we're just saying grab the information related to that star that you're hovered over and write it into here. And then what we can do, let's make sure that's 5 when I hit submit, is basically send just that rating number over into the Zap that we've defined over on Zapier, and Zapier takes over from that point on. So if we submit that one now, if I come here, what I've actually got is, let's see, wait a second, is we have Google Sheets here, which has just entries for the ratings that have been submitted. So over in Zapier, we go back to our Zaps, and we've got our rating to Google Sheets. You can see exactly the same again, webhook to catch that information coming in, and then my action is that I'm going to create a row. So I connect it up to my Google Sheets using my Gmail account. I pick the spreadsheet that it should go and insert into, the worksheet that it should insert into, and then I map in the information that's come in. So it's as simple as that. So what we can do is actually do this live now. So that's kind of the demo's kind of finished off, and just, this is perhaps dangerous, but just to show it in action, the idea was we could take a published Squirrel project, which was the star one that we were just looking at. We can make that available for anybody on this call, and you can go in and rate this session. And this one here, this is just another Squirrel project showing it embedded directly in PowerPoint. So one of the things you can do with Squirrel projects is you can embed them into websites, you can just view them on the cloud, you can also embed them directly in PowerPoint. So I've not left my PowerPoint presentation, but we're seeing the ratings coming in. This is like kind of live refreshing now, and it's just a Squirrel project running inside PowerPoint, pulling through the information from the Google Sheet that's being updated by the Squirrel project that has the star rating that is published. So really neat, gone full circle, I guess. Brilliant. That's it, Mark. It's kind of back to you for any questions, really.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Mel. And just to confirm, we shared the link, so they are live ratings that are coming through from today's attendees. So thank you all very much for that. I've got a question for you, Mel, actually from David. David asks about the wind speed example that you showed. In real life, how would we be getting the wind speed sensor data into the Squirrel application?
Yeah, great question. So I didn't really show you, but we do have connectors within Squirrel. So the idea being that you could connect to a platform for types. So we've got things like database queries via this kind of middleware involved. But yeah, so you could connect up to any database and pull that information through. So I've focused very much on the spreadsheet and formulas and things today. But yes, you can pull in the information. In fact, if I show you very, very quickly, if I open the project that is the one that is live and bringing through the session rating, bringing through the numbers for the session, we have a connector on here. Now it's Google Sheets, it's not to a database, but the principle is exactly the same. So we can run off to a particular Google Sheet, get it back, and then we insert the data into our spreadsheet. And once we've got that, so there's the binding there from the Google Sheet that will bring in the data and it will place it into this area. Once we've brought that in, we can work with that data in exactly the same way as we could data that's been manually input. So yes, you would use a connector to do that, and then it would become all fully automated.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for that. I'm conscious of time, Mel, so I will just say that's been an excellent session. Thank you so much for that. I now feel that I know a lot more about Zapier than I did before the start, and certainly the combination of Squirrel365 and Zapier is clearly very, very powerful indeed. If any of you are Zapier users and you're unfamiliar or new to Squirrel365, then please reach out to us, either support at squirrel365.io or reach out to me directly, Mark at squirrel365.io, and we can grant you access to our early access Zapier integration when you'll see that function capability that Mel's demoed today. Leaves me to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to join us. A big thank you to Mel once again, and I wish you all a very good rest of the day. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all. Bye.